I have learned from scripture that men fall back to predictable patterns. Thus, history of man is preserved in scripture and to a lesser extent, other historical writings, and history will repeat. Soon, some of your friends or loved ones will be raped, tortured to produce adrenochrome, and then they will eat you or them. That is a pattern that will be repeated. The cannibals are people pretending to be empathetic to your gambling and drinking and promoting what I affirm the scriptures teach. We should abhor perverted sex. The killing of our own children is always wrong. It is then not you that are tricked into believing. It is then not you that are tricked into believing what they want to achieve sexually at your children's expense. That's a little bit harder than I wanted it to be. So there is that. Welcome everybody to Mud Flood. Was Armageddon the Mud Flood? Was the Armageddon? Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Oh no. Wow. I have heard a lot about the new what could be rolled out as a bird flu. Tinnitus. That's a real thing. So they say. Let's look and see what we got here. I'm going to show a disclaimer. You'll recognize it. We got into the 107 the other day. Wow, it's everywhere. Not really, but kind of. 1988. There's a Parent Act, Designs and Patent Act. Not too many pictures, I don't think. There's the thumbnail. I just had to take a picture of that. Look at that. They were sad they didn't get there, in the afternoon. They got there kind of early and the sun was not the angle they liked, but I thought it was worth clipping a picture of. Hey, I have not set my in-stream thing. Did I go over these? Yep, I think I did. I just have this cork crown stuff. 2 inventions commercially developed by Painter's Crown, Cork, and Seal were the foundation of today's vast bottling industry. Everything from wine to water. Wine to water. It was 1898. Painter claimed that a worker could fill and cap 8 bottles a minute, although the average was about 4 bottles a minute. And these, from the same country where Boston provided ice to the world, because they had the ships and they used that. It was by 1902, they were doing 600 or 60 to 100 bottles a minute. That's like a lot more than 4. And this was automatic, electric Crown. I guess that's part of it. Highly pixelated picture. Thanks for nothing. They even everything down to the mason jar cap, the Western Stopper Company, and prohibitions repealed, and they knew, hey, there was a depression, everything's bad, it's going to be like that, rationing. Let's provide a mason's jar so that they can can their stuff at home and buy spend money to save a penny. Look at that. they went from 6 on a good minute to 4 maybe. By 1937, they were producing 100 million Crown Caps a day. Crown Caps also introduced the quart cone top beer can, which are highly collectible to some people. I know I've made a few pennies that way when my dad was selling knives and there was some money on the table to be made with I wonder what if that was that doggone have you heard about that bird flu thing? That's supposed to be one of those ones that they're leaking out that was made in the Wuhan. Bottle caps. Bottle cap, bottle cap. Thrown together bottle cap. Oh wait. First we have to go through this. There's the vice president and the president and their women, their wives, they're married. Trump said at his inauguration that he had been saved by God. Now he appears to be returning the favor with an increasingly conservative religious focus. Pam Bondi is a new attorney general. Joe Biden. Trump rarely appears in church. He was confirmed into the Presbyterian Church, but said he was a non-denominational. He sells a Bible, Trump branded Bible. Trump told a prayer breakfast at the U.S. Capitol last Thursday, I believed in God, but I feel much more strongly about it. I'm just reading. I said we got to get to the bottle caps, but no, not before there were some other things first. The bottle caps took the precedent. I was interested. People have been telling me about this. We used that. That was a good Bible study last night, I think. Wow. Huh? The
stimulating hormone can actually fit into and bind to and then create a physiological response. Now,
what?
Kind of think of that as like a lock and key analogy. The luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone are a specific shaped key, and they'll fit in a very specific shaped lock, which would be a receptor on the actual ovary. So this is what's pretty cool about this whole process. What follicle stimulating hormone is going to do is prepare the ovarian follicle, and that's what's shown right here. This is showing you a follicle becoming more and more mature. A follicle is this circular structure right here. Follicle literally just means a bag-like structure. And it's funny because I remember teaching my students this a lot in the past. And when they first heard the word follicle or the words follicle stimulating hormone, some of them would be like, is that going to stimulate my hair follicles? And that's an honest mistake. It's okay. But we didn't, because our portion of the spine, specifically the sacrum right there.
No, if you just throwed some dirt on that and you had Salt Paco cut it rock in half, I've shown you this. But the uterus and the bottle capping.
And then we also have the anus.
What?
But as far as female reproductive structures, here's the vaginal canal. You can see the probe in. Here we have the beginning of the uterus, specifically the cervix. And then we also have the body of the uterus here. And I should mention the bladder here. For anybody who's ever been pregnant, this relationship between the actual bladder and the uterus is quite important. We'll get into more of that in just a little bit when we talk about pregnancy. But some other really
am I being struck?
Here is we've got the uterine tube. If I can grab that there. Here's the uterine.
Oh, I'm not sharing. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Love you like a rock.
Of the uterine tube. This is also referred to as the fallopian tube. And then, of course,
sorry about that. I wasn't sharing the screen.
Size ovary right here. So just kind of keep those structures in mind.
I appreciate
and what
that
I want to
so
do
much.
is first talk about what's going on about a monthly basis, and then we'll go back to the cadaver section and kind of give you.
Well, it's probably maybe it's good that you missed the cadaver section.
Of what happens during
it did look like a rock to me,
and some really cool processes in the reproductive cycle. So this is again a monthly chart. When you look at physiology texts, they
men and women, we have these things. you know?
If you remember, smooth muscle is under involuntary control. And right in there, where I'm sticking the probe, that's the endometrium.
That's where you were. That's where I were. We all started there. And we don't remember it. We got trained to learn. And you're going to be learning today, you know, men are men, women are women. And even the scientists, they're amazed by it.
This is to show how estrogen starts to increase right before we have ovulation. Estrogen does a lot of things, like it's in charge of secondary sex characteristics, breast development during puberty, but during the menstrual cycle as well, this starts to, it will potentially increase sex drive or libido. And I always think it's funny and talk about this with my students.
You ever notice how scientists, they never call it a sex hunch? I heard that a long time ago and thought it was funny.
Follicular phase, which was up until a point day 13 or so. And the reason it's called the follicular phase is because these follicles are
hey guys, don't admit to your women you know about this, because they will deny it. I'm not what. Well, maybe some will.
And again, we typically have one follicle that takes over and releases the egg, that dominant follicle. And then we have this ovulatory phase that happens around day 14. And then we get the
Day
luteal
14
phase. And what happens if a female does not become pregnant, the progesterone and the estrogen levels tank down, they drop. And the reason for that is the corpus luteum typically only has a life of about 2 weeks. And so as you can see, it lasts about 2 weeks and then degrades. And because it degrades, it's no longer secreting that progesterone and that estrogen. And
they sell pills that will kill a child. Just in case you think there might be a child because you had some crazy sex, man. Bottle capping. That's an early beer sign, back when you could do 4 bottles in a minute. If you're good, that's average. A grenadier, I think they throw grenades. Wisconsin, largest 6-pack in the world. And it's been around. You know, these mud flood buildings, they like their beer too, I guess, or they can be converted easily into people like beer. This guy did it. Heilemann. Old style lager, 1911. These guys, you know, Miller bought them out. Everything's been bought out. I guess it's InBev, but we're going to kind of focus on the mechanics of it because that's where I'm going today. Back to that guy, huh? 1880, they were producing more than 7,000 barrels of beer. Most people drank their beer. They had to go to the Baja, remember? The bar? Because that's they could drink the draft beers. Drafted in the barrel. Sell it in the glasses. You know, then the Prohibition said, no, the mafia's got to get in on some of that money. And so they did it, and Congress defined it, resumed all beer-making operations, 1933. Racism was just out of control. Eugenics was the mood. Fascism was sweeping the United States, America, Italy, Japan, form of it, Russia, China, whatever they had going on. They had revenge on their mind. They were getting double-crossed. That's the way they look at it. I've heard of these people. Schmidt, Black Label, Olympia, made out in Washington. I thought. Yep. Tumwater. Anyway, beer. So I was looking at beer. It's hard to find these pictures of these old machines of where miraculously all of a sudden this one guy said, hey, I'm tired of only having my best workers do 8 bottles and on average it's 4. That means I got some workers doing 2 bottles a minute. Well, Crown cork capping is not as easy as it sounds. You need to jump up in production like this. The Crown Cap soda machine is the 41st International Historic Mechanical Engineering Landmark to be designated since the something to do with mechanical engineering historical landmark program began. I wonder who's going to be number 42. That's supposed to be a big number to them. So it just went to like, we are so tired of hand doing these beer bottles. Can somebody come up with something that will just do thousands of millions in a day? Sure. Or a month. When was that? How long did it take them to make that 104 million? This guy did it. Well, that was old. That's how you do 8 a minute. Yeah, that's how you do 8 a minute. Capping. I was just looking at this going like, wow, church will be late today. You can still buy a machine. They're expensive. Any type of crown capping thing. If you want to bottle your own beer, they're not going to give it away. These guys here, watch this fail. So that you can get, what do they end up with? 8 out of 10? Oh, this is, you gonna do it or not? You gonna bottle it? Come on, you guys. You only got a little time. Let's see what you're selling here for thousands and thousands of dollars. Does it work? This is, you're not gonna do $1 million a month. Whoops, they just missed that one. Whoop, missed that one too. Yeah, get him out of there. Yeah, Rocket. I wasn't sharing the screen earlier. That's supposed to be just something that's automatic. So, if you don't want to use a crown capper nowadays, hey, you can buy this. About that music. Does it make you want to tap your foot? Or snap your fingers? They say snapping your fingers became a thing during the Beat generation because they didn't want to disturb the neighbors that lived above them as they were playing their food. Yeah. You see that part where they steal these ampules with fire? Light them up. What's going to happen when the world can't count on these people anymore? They'll be cooking and eating you instead. They love abortion and adrenochrome. They're going to live forever. Fired up. This machine's, it's easy. Drop them in the water. Take me to the river. They can cap bottles now. They could do it because of the generic 21 tooth crown cork bottle cap. Not a lot of history here. Doesn't end with your normal footnote. Got flip caps like the Grolsch beer bottles. They were doing that in the late 1800s, and then next thing you know, they could do $1 million a month, something like that. They got crown corks. Not these, because you got to keep the contents of the bottle away from the metal, or it ruins your beer and your wine. Now they got everything's automatic. And what's going to happen when they stop delivering it to your door? When they lock you down next time and they say, "Oh no, I'm sorry, you don't get no DoorDash." You can tell me you've got some collectible Michael Jordans, but no, DoorDash does not accept bartering. There is no DoorDash. Well, there you go. All of this, and they never put a vortex on the bottom of a plastic bottle. so you could swirl it. And there's one of those cone bottles I was telling you about. This one here's got to be worth like $100. How much? $300. But it's sold out. You can't get it. You can just forget about it. Okay. Well, see what they're selling for. Well, you can on the 16th. So what is it that when you see things, do they want you to believe that you can't trust your own perception, that your left brain, your right hand path is no good? They want to all build up the left hand path. I know. The moon rabbit. Now that's real. People have been talking about that for hundreds and hundreds of years. The word was first used in 1866 to say, no, it only seems like we're living on a flat earth. We've got to change their mind with our Darwinism and our thruster rockets. So, this is just stupid that they're even mountains on Mars. Or how do we know? I thought it was gas or something. Saw some pictures where it looked like a gas plasma. There's the man in the moon. There's the man with the frog eye. What's up with you, frog eye? Got a chicken leg for a cheekbone? Man, quit trying to play games with me, man. What are you doing here? Notorious, the faces of the devil was hidden in the main character's shawl. Really? Thanks for the small picture there, Wikipedia. There's an illusionary woman. Okay. And there's an illusionary dog. Deep Dream Program encourage you to see doggies. Okay, it worked. I was all over it. You see that dog? Pareidolia. I guess it's a real thing. Which way is this girl turning? To the right or to the left? Really? Does he ever stop and change directions? Like you look at it like right now. Is she spinning her right hand? That's a famous one. It got something to do with the positron emission tomography scan of a woman has a similar effect when viewed spinning, I guess. Some people have craziness about it, White outlines on the leg help perceive clockwise spin and grounded left leg. Huh. Thanks for that. That's the original animation. And now it's the right. Oh, wait a minute. So she's turning to the right. They're trying to trick you because it's the same. There she's turning to the left because they say. Weird, huh? We'll break it down. Can't touch it. It's a very common thing back in the day to make hyper-realistic paintings. Hyper-realistic is what they call them now because people are going like, man, they were good. They're super good. They can't believe how good they were. And they always go like, no, we got to go back. If you want anybody good, it's Michelangelo. It's Leonardo. Donatello. It's hyper realistic. It almost looks like a dome. It's just a painting, I guess. Yeah. Painted on a low vaulted ceiling, so they just made it look big. That guy did it. Hyperrealism. That's from 1504. What changed? Not much. So start for it, baby. They could build a church back in the 1650s and say, hey, how do you like it now? And they could draw like super hyper. There's a reverse frame. That's reverse lame. So we're looking at some hyper realistic things. Any of them jumping out at you? There's a hyper realistic sculpture, flat cutout. Huh. And they're good. They're good. Huh. Looks like something like George Washington. Where is that George Washington in their world? Where is he? There he is. Is that him? Oh yeah. I like that. Paint the window. Bottle capping or something. What's this? Ghosts everywhere. You know, you can fool people into believing what you want them to believe. If you want them to believe there's a spirit world, it takes deception, and they'll do it because they believe it is better than Christianity. Brown was distressed by an increased public interest in spiritualism, something he deemed a mental epidemic. Well, we all know what that's like. People order you to do things you don't want to do. By offering a scientific explanation on the properties of light, color, and the structure of the eyes, he stated in the section Popular and Scientific Description that the purpose of writing Spectropia was to bring forth the extinction of the superstition belief that apparitions are actual spirits by showing some of the ways our senses may be deceived. There you go. Oh, they didn't want to believe in the Bible, but they didn't want to believe, you know, hey, is this gold or blue or is it black and white? Last time I looked at this, that was not the original color of the dress. You guys remember that? There was a whole thing in like, what color do you see this dress? Somehow it was black and white, blue and black, or white and gold. I'm seeing blue and black. What do you guys see? I see a little bit of yellow in there by the gold. Blue, black. How to see the dress both ways. Well, that sounds good. Are you trying to sell me something? Now you see, those it looks like two different dresses. How can we be confused? Kind of confusing about our confusion. This is funny too. People used to think this was cool, so they would draw these things. I think it was to send secret messages. Mad Magazine used to do it when I was a child in the 60s. Unfold it. Oh, more brewing. 1845. They were doing draft beer by the barrel because it's too hard to bottle it. You can only do 4 a minute on average. So these things are still in business. The same people that started them back then, honkies, all of us, got into making beer early, still into it. And Wisconsin is the center of it. Stevens Point, another one of these oldest brewery, sales volumes growing from 50th to 32nd. 1857. They're still in business. You know, they get switched around and things by the people in charge of who's doing good at the time, I guess. Look at that. 100,000 barrels. This was a small company. They got a bunch of different beers. The Yabba Dabba Chai Tea Porter. That sounds rather snooty. I wonder how they capped them. Transylvania. Nope, that's the other day. Other day. Those body-based measurements. That was a good Bible study last night. Units of measure. Is that it? I thought I had more. Hey, what's up with this Marco Rubio and the IRI board of directors? Here they are congratulating him on the IRI. Let's copy that. Go back to the YouTube. No.
This is going to be a great event. We're doing several things. One thing is we're just celebrating 75 years of IRI and how we've been able to compare and learn about R&D and to network and to bring best practices forward. Secondly, we're going to be talking about the impact of technological innovation. So this will be a meeting to look at competitiveness, where we've come from, where we're going. And last, in the future, what's going to really help us change, and what do we need to get ready for?
You know what I think here, what the father was wanting me to close with is we mentioned a lot of things from the uterus to bottle capping to something that's contained in a follicle. But is this USA aid? Is it only restricted to the Democrats? And I think I wanted to show that one too. I had a couple of my history I didn't leave up. Un momento. So much of the they're getting busted. I know that. Oh, where is that thing?
Welcome to New Atlas Live. I'm Brian Berletic. Joining me as usual is Angelo Giuliano.
And I think these guys are commies. So this could be disinformation.
People will be becoming aware of it. Here in Thailand, where I am based, not even one single U.S.-backed opposition group has shut down since this announcement regarding USAID. Not a single one of them, because yes, they get USAID money for specific projects, but a lot of their funding comes from the NED, which hasn't been touched yet, but also open society, European governments, European Union itself, the UK, and these private foundations. So the US State Department is using all of these channels of money. The CIA is using all of these channels of money to fund this type of interference. So the Trump administration hasn't even acknowledged, let alone done anything about this. Angelo, what would you like to add to that?
They will never give up on such a very powerful weapon. Just think in terms of return on investment. I would say there's nothing like that has so much return on investment when it comes to actually power projection. Just think for 1 second. What was said?
The arms industry. And then, of course, if you look at who's running Team Rubicon, it's David Petraeus is on the board of advisors, and it's all people like this. But I just thought Petraeus was the most ridiculous one out of the bunch. He's an army general and also former director of the CIA. That just doesn't get worse than that. It doesn't
Right.
get more obvious.
He's a
than that. People
disgrace.
need to open their eyes and look. So no, nothing is changing.
I would say what's the main difference? More you had before people that were extremely ideological when it came to this new global order, new world order. When it comes to Trump, it's very clear, and I would say I grant him to him. That's he's when he says I want to go to Greenland, he says I'm going to dig into Greenland the trillions of dollars of natural.
Let's see what this guy
What
says.
happened with Trump? He actually
Guys fighting in a ring. And they're probably asking themselves, it doesn't really make sense for Trump because he's supposed to come in and be opposed to all of everything that Obama did and the whole thing in Ukraine. But we need to start arming Ukraine. We have to. This is the time to do it. And so he just did it anyway. And I think they did stuff like that under Biden. They said Trump is the tariff guy, but we need more tariffs. And Biden is in office, so just do tariffs. Who cares? No one's even going to notice. If the media doesn't report it and make it big.
What is going on in this world?
They always do a security check. Nobody found him, not even the golf course security. That's hard for me to believe. I cannot believe that. So it can be true about some assassination attempts, but some of it is staged for theatrics. To build up this aura of they want Trump. Do I believe that Trump is different from the politicians before? Yeah, because he's not a politician at heart. And do I believe that the powers that be allowed Trump into office? Yeah, but they manage him. They have a lot on him because you can't hang out with Jeffrey Epstein.
There's a section about Mark Rubio. He was the head of one of those.
They don't have on you.
Military and militarily defeat opposing forces, they then also have to capture and control everything that makes up a nation state, which means electricity, water, sewage, trash collection, education. That is what the USAID was created to do. And they even admit, they even have a whole section in the counterinsurgency manual dedicated to USAID's role in U.S. counterinsurgency operations. And they have a little diagram here. It makes it very clear. You control information, the economy, security, and what do you get? Control. You get control over a country. That's what USAID is. That's what all of these organizations are being used to achieve around the globe. U.S. political capture of targeted nations all around the globe. And one last picture, and then we can.
Hey, look, a Syrian insurgency.
This is in the U.S. government's counterinsurgency manual. They are showing a picture from when the U.S. Army conquered the Philippines. They stripped it from the Spanish, who had already colonized and squatted on the Philippines for generations. The Filipino people rose up in rebellion. They wanted independence. So the U.S. military brutally suppressed the uprising. Concentration camps, mass murder, torture, the whole bit. Everything the U.S. is infamous for doing when it goes to war with another country. This is what it did.
Wow. Closing it out with this.
Actually accepting its publication. The same scientific establishment lobbied the FCC to fine NBC for broadcasting an alternative view when they aired a television special, The Mysterious Origin of Man, hosted by Charlton Heston in 1996. It was based on another controversial book, Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of the Human Race, published in 1993 by Michael Cremo and Richard Thompson. History reflects that those who resort to censorship and misrepresentation are rarely the good guys. Big science acting as Big Brother obviously isn't a good thing. Quote, "Science is the belief in the ignorance of the experts." Close quote, Richard Feynman. The mob mentality, which seeks to silence dissenting opinions in popular culture, is sometimes referred to as cancel culture. As we can see, this Orwellian mindset has been around for a long time, although it is more pronounced today.
Come on, that is kind of funny. But that's the world we live in. Okay, again, I wasn't sharing, right? Son of a gun.
Reminds me of the Velikovsky affair in the 50s, when successful attempts were made to sideline him by underhand means. His publishers, Macmillan, intimidated by threats from academics and scientists, transferred his controversial book, Worlds in Collision, to Doubleday. Prominent people also engineered the dismissal of the veteran senior editor at Macmillan, despite his 25 years plus service, for initially accepting its publication. The same scientific establishment lobbied the FCC to fine NBC for broadcasting an alternative view when they aired a television special, The Mysterious Origin of Man, hosted by Charlton Heston in 1996. It was based on another controversial book, Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of the Human Race, published in 1993 by Michael Cremo and Richard Thompson. History reflects that those who resorted
That's
to
a good
censorship and
smile. He's a good
misrepresentation were
smiler.
really the good guys. Big science acting as Big Brother obviously isn't a good thing. Quote, science is the belief in the ignorance of the experts. Close quote, Richard Feynman. The mob mentality, which seeks to silence dissenting opinions in popular culture, is sometimes referred to as cancel culture. As we can see, this Orwellian mindset has been around
That's
for
what
a
I
long
thought was
time,
funny.
although it is more pronounced today than ever. A suspicion naturally arises. Does cancel culture reflect the inability of some to compete in the free market of ideas? Quote,
Free
the
market.
left brain has no sense of nuance, or if they're being altered.
Michael
Published in
Cremio. These guys have been stealing for 10 years about the giants now, but the world has its agenda. It's the opposite of Mud Flood was Armageddon. And the Bible is true, and that men are men and women are women. They're going to sell you Atlantis, Anunnaki, anything but the Bible, anything but Christ. That's the new ABCs, anything but Christ. I think you're on to him. I know that now is the time for decisions. I ask you not to rush into these decisions without prayer, without seeking the Father's face, the Spirit that has been given to many. Many are called, now few are chosen. But you wouldn't even be worried about it if you weren't one of the called. Big day today. There's Super Bowl. They're going to be sending out the waves that are promoting the gambling and the drinking. You just be strong. Be strong right here on the flat earth with its golden age past, because the mud flood was Armageddon. And then they had the 1,000-year reign. And after that, there were two reapings. One of them was the bad one, the grapes of wrath, because the wheat and the tares grew together and they were ruled with a rod of iron during that 1,000 years. Look, we're the leftover remnants of the people who complied. Our parents, grandparents didn't get lobotomized, didn't get institutionalized. They made it. They complied, or they were just too oblivious to go, sure, why not? Free beer, I'm there. Something like that is what me and my friends will always tell you, because we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamang. That's how you say goodbye.